Welcome to the Computer Repair Podcast, episode number 260, End of Year Prep. I'm your host, Jeff Halash. This is our live call-in show for computer repair techs. We answer your questions on running your computer repair business. Call-in number is 1-888-697-0162. The Computer Repair Podcast is brought to you by Ninja, the simple-to-use remote monitoring and management solution. Try it free at ninjarmm.com/10off. And also by Kabuto, the lightweight RMM solution created for residential MSP businesses. Get your free 30-day trial at repairtechsolutions.com/Kabuto. Let me introduce the co-host. We have John Dubinsky from the Maven Group. How you doing, John?
Jeff, I have you 5x5, locked and loaded.
Awesome. Good to have you, man. And also, we have Chris Carruthers from Carruthers Computers. How you doing, Chris?
I am definitely here, but I don't know what 5x5 means.
We'll let somebody in the chat tell you.
Sure.
All right. So let's start off. And John, why don't you go ahead and kick it off this week and share a tip or story that we could learn from?
Well, two quick ones. Past week, I got called in to help another company that I do work for, and I ran into an interesting piece of gear that I've never used before. It's actually a PC, but it's a ruggedized PC. It's by a company called Logic Supply. I'll put them in the show notes and as well in the chat. It was in a machine shop, very, very, very harsh environment. Dust, liquid, whole 9 yards all over in this place, extremely filthy. But these PCs were pretty sweet and built for the task. So I thought if anybody, I don't run into a whole lot of that environment, but I thought if you did work in that environment, it might be an interesting link to share because I've never heard of this company before, but they look pretty solid.
That would go along the lines with what we used to have with the Panasonic Toughbooks, right?
Well, I might even say more so than that. These are like totally enclosed steel chassis, no fan, nothing.
Okay.
So, almost like IP67. I mean, they have a whole product list from rugged to industrial to commercial PCs at their website. But these were all enclosed, no cooling fan, sealed ports, all that kind of stuff.
That's cool.
It was cool. It was very cool.
Okay.
The other thing is on a personal note, I've cut my cord here at home for TV, like a lot of us have for a long time. And I'm on the Roku bandwagon. That's the device of choice versus Android TV or any of that. But I found this cool little clip-on device that clips on to your Roku remote that controls your TV. Because if you don't know, when you have a Roku, you still need to use your TV remote to select input and to power on your TV. The Roku remote does not do that. This little device clips right onto the side of your Roku and handles all that. So you only need one remote. Plus, it does a lot of other cool stuff.
John, you're going to make my wife very happy because whenever I get into bed at night, there's a minimum of 3 remotes in the bed. And she uses Roku all the time, but you're right. You got to be able to turn the TV on and change this and change that. And
I mean, this solves a first world problem for 25 or, first world problem for $25, but it is pretty sweet. So
Christmas gift. There we go. All right.
Amen.
I'm in.
I'm with you. My wife complains about the same thing. I gotta use that too remote.
Exactly.
It doesn't exactly sound like that, but please nobody tell her that I said that. Thank you.
All right. Chris, what do you got for us?
Well, biggest thing that I've got is I want to talk about vendors because usually, when you deal with a vendor, things wind up going fairly smoothly, usually, right? The vendor knows what they're doing. They don't wind up messing everything up on you, and you don't wind up spending 3 days cleaning up their mess. Unfortunately, sometimes you do wind up cleaning up a vendor's mess. Sometimes you do wind up billing about 4 hours of time that you really shouldn't have needed to bill a client for, and it winds up completely disheveling your week. So if you do have to deal with a client who's dealing with their ISP, let's say, and maybe their ISP doesn't actually know how to assign a static IP address or put the modem into bridge mode without screwing it up and making them lose their internet for 3 days, then, find another solution. That's about all I'm going to say about that.
Are there other solutions out there, or are you like the United States where you only have 1 or 2 choices wherever you're at?
No, I could choose between about 6 different internet companies up here, but there's only really one internet company that does well.
Okay.
It's, cable versus DSL, right?
Gotcha. And cable's always going to win, in my opinion.
Every time.
All right. Very good. So one of the things, and again, talk about first world problems. One of the things that I decided to do is I said, it'd be kind of cool. I get tired of every year crawling behind my Christmas tree to plug in the lights and unplug the lights. And most of the time they're just in 24/7. I said, let me do something a little different this year and let me order a smart switch. Let me order a smart switch that not only works with the Amazon Echo, but also Google Home. Now, I am a Amazon household as far as the Echo devices, and I know John is a Google Home user as far as his devices over there. But this will work with either or, and it's a TP-Link Smart Plug Mini. Real easy to hook up to the internet. You can hook it up to a phone app. You enable the skill on the Alexa, and you can tell it to turn the lights on and off. You can set a schedule, so it will turn them on whenever you want them to come on. You can turn them off whenever you want them to turn off. And what's cool about that is when we're done with Christmas, in this same room, I'm going to move that plug over to a lamp so that I can have it come on in the evening time when it's like dark on the lower portion of my home and where I don't have to press any buttons or flick any switches to turn the lights on. Or if I'm really lazy, I could just tell Alexa to turn the light on. I used it today and it was really cool. And I can see the smart home concept coming together. Now, I don't know how much more things I want to add. John and I were talking about before the show. We were talking about the Hue lights, the Wi-Fi enabled lights, but I think I might even go a little bit different route. TP-Link also makes smart switches, which is basically a light switch that's wireless that you can wire into wherever you want lights to be turned on or off automatically. So I might try one of those and see how that works out, because right now, the one that you plug into, it works out perfectly. And I'm not a big TP-Link fan. I used to be, but their routers and whatever are not the best. I will just put it that way. But this hardware actually seems pretty robust and pretty solid, and it just works. All right, let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about our main topic. Our show today is brought to you by Ninja, the remote monitoring and management solution to help you become more efficient, more productive, and more profitable. With Ninja, you can have a faster fixed response time and offer preventative maintenance to your customers. Ninja understands what you need to run your business, which is why their RMM solution is integrated with tools that you use every day. Ninja provides competitive pricing, patch management, antivirus, email and SMS alerting. You can be up and running quickly with minimum training time. Nobody wants to spend hours trying to learn a system and figure out exactly what it can do for you. This you can have up and running, and most of the stuff running in the background and just working for you. You have TeamViewer integration for that remote support. It's one solution for managed and non-managed clients alike. There's network visibility inside the RMM. Easy to read dashboards. Again, I got to have something easy to read, or most of the time I'm probably going to gloss over it. So this is something I can look at, fix if needed, or move on with the rest of my day. A powerful device search where you can create custom queries and export the list to show your customers. There's also an executive style report showing important system metrics such as health score, software added or removed, hardware changes, and TeamViewer connections. Ninja is offering Podnutz a free 30-day trial, and when you decide to buy, a 10% discount. Take advantage of this offer. Go to ninjarmm.com/10off. All right. So what we're going to talk about today is end of the year prep. What are some of the things that everybody should be doing when it gets towards the end of the year? And then what are some of the things that we want to do when it gets towards the end of the year in order to prep ourselves for the next year? And I will go ahead. I'm going to defer to Chris. And I want to see what he has to say about how is he going to prep for the end of his year.
I'm going to sit back and watch the rest of you while I'm laughing, because my end of year isn't until February. But that said, around this time of year, if your year end is at the end of the month, you should have a pretty good idea at this point of what you've made. So right now you should be doing your financial analysis, see how everything went over the year, what made you money, what didn't make you money, and just start preparing on where you're going to spend your advertising dollars, if that's an option for you. What do you need to keep an eye on as far as stock? Do you need to make adjustments to your pricing in order to be able to handle the inflation of the rest of your bills? And is there anything that you're paying for that you really shouldn't be paying for at this point? Are you using a phone line that never rings? Are you using certain software that you just don't get any use of anymore? Because really, we should be gearing up to make next year profitable now that this year's almost over.
Okay, very good. That's a good start there. And John, what say you?
Well, I think this is where you take advantage of the partners that you've been dealing with, meaning your accountant and all that kind of stuff. So the first thing I would do is say, hey, touch base with them and say, hey, what do you need from me? Because they're the ones that should be able to close those loops for you as far as your reporting, your compliance, and your taxes and all that kind of good stuff. And if you have a good partner, meaning a good CPA, he should be able to give you a lot of the reporting to follow up on my next tips on what you should do. So my first list on the list would be to review your vendors. Like Chris mentioned, review who you're contracted with, review if you're going to continue to use them, maybe touch base with them if you're having second thoughts and say, hey, what's coming this year? How are you going to keep me? Can we do anything better on pricing? Or is there new features that I need to pay a little bit more for? So on and so forth. Maybe I might even put this before vendors, but I would reach out to your best customers. This is the time of year to say, hey, thank you very much. You know, that top 25%, make them feel like gold because you don't want them to go anywhere for the next year. They're probably the ones that pay most of your bills. And if they're really good customers, they're probably the ones that take the least amount of your time as well. So those are of huge value. Keep both of those. It's not just about the money, but it's about the time suck as well. Maybe take a quick look at your image and everything that's there, your marketing, everything that's in anything you want to consider to change there. You know, I'm not changing anything this year, but if you feel your business is down, Paco's a great story on that. He's changing his business image from more of a residential focus to a business focus. So this is a great time to do that. A lot of us, you know, are like the cobbler's kids running around with bad shoes. So we got crappy tech when all of our customers got the good stuff. So maybe it's time to consider any technology upgrades for your own office at this time of year. And then look at the details for your business, your insurance, ways to protect you. Again, meet with your accountant. This is a good time to do all of that.
Very good. Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for that. We always talk about not only for ourselves, but the end of the year purchases. This is the time of year when here's the thing. You have to actually make a profit in your business, or if you do it with no profit for so many years, it becomes a hobby status and you basically can't take any of the benefits from the IRS. But so you want to show a profit, but again, you don't want to pay everything to the government because you want to be able to run your business. And there's things that you need in your business, whether it be hardware, software, tools that you use anyways, and you're going to spend money for it. That's why there's tax deductions. So you need to be able to take advantage of those. This is also a time of year too, and it gets hard because we want to take this time, and I'm always for spending time with family, not spending as much time with the customer, because this is the end of the year. This is a time to get together, celebrate, have a good time, relax, not be on call 24/7 all the way into the end of the year. So a lot of times, but one of the things we need to look at though is maybe a customer needs some things upgraded. And this is a good time of year for a lot of them to do a year-end spend where they can actually take those tax deductions for themselves. And that helps them out too. So a lot of times when we've put together a plan for a business client or even a residential client for that matter and said, hey, you know, that router we were talking about 6 months ago, it's really on its last leg and it's probably something we need to upgrade. So this will be a good time of year to do that for, when I say residential, I mean home-based businesses and things like that. Most of your regular residential customers that don't have some sort of business are not taking those tax deductions anyways. But there are a lot of home-based businesses that have these cheap routers. And I've got a customer that calls me probably, I don't know, every few weeks. And I keep telling them there's a connection problem. Well, other things work. Yeah, I know, I understand that, but there's a connection problem. I need to come out and look at it to see what it is because I have no idea. But that particular computer that is super slow, there's a problem. So, anyways, so those are some of the things that I look at towards the end of the year. Also, this is a good time, I think, where you can take a step back from your business and, like these guys are saying, look and see what you're using, what you're not using. But also at the same time, this is a good time to get those checklists or paperwork in order for you to be able to move into the next year and not just use everything from your brain, but actually have it down in a list where I go, hey, here's my virus removal, or here's the diagnostic sheet that I use for when I'm diagnosing a computer. So I'm not just running around like a chicken with my head cut off, because that's no fun for a chicken, I'm pretty sure. So you want to think about those things. And this is a time of year, usually towards the end and even into the beginning of the year, where I try to take this time and maybe get some new technology that's going to help me in my business for the next year and make my life easier. John, that's what it's all about, isn't it? Is making our lives easier.
Well, you mentioned running around with like a chicken with your head cut off. This is also the time of year when you're evaluating all this to fire your bad clients. So there are a lot of times when you're, praising your good clients and trying to build that relationship, you might look at the bottom 5% of your client roster and say, hey, boy, they're costing me more than I'm making. So you might, it might be time to fire some clients, because not all business is good business. You may be losing money on a percentage of your client base, or they may be sucking all the time away from you where you could be making more somewhere else. So as you're looking at your processes and all that, consider your clients as well.
Absolutely. Chris, I know you have something to add. You always have.
I always have something to add. I mean, I 100% agree with everything that everybody's saying here so far, which sounds really weird coming from me, but that's how it is. Another thing that we probably want to have a look at this point, beyond, which clients are our good clients, which clients are our bad clients, but which clients are our larger clients and which clients may not have used up their IT budget for the year. Something that we might not think of as small businesses, because I assume anyway, most of the people listening to this are smaller IT companies, is that larger companies have an annual budget or quarterly budget for their IT services and what they're allowed to spend. Now, if they're not anywhere near spending what's in their IT budget, if they don't spend it now, they're not going to get that budget again next year. So, poking your larger clients and finding out like, hey, are you guys having any pain points? We're getting to the end of the year. We should probably get some of this stuff done so that you can start invoicing before the end of this month and keep their budgets up for next year so that they're not shortchanging themselves and possibly using you less.
Now, Chris, in your opinion, what it would be considered a large company? What size are we talking here?
In the context of the conversation we're having right now, it depends how much of a stickler the owner is. IT budgets, I normally don't really see a set budget until you get to around the 100 employee mark.
Okay.
But I've seen like teams of 5 in a small office, and they have a set budget for the year on what they can spend things on because the owner came from a corporate environment and that's what they're used to. So they just kind of continued on with it.
Well, that's another good point. And I know we've talked about it on this show continuously. This is one of the things where this is probably a good time to reach out to those customers too and say, okay, not only what are your pain points, what can we look into in this next year coming up? How much money do you need to have put aside in a 6-month period in order to replace X? And a lot of times I think that's helpful to the customer, because a lot of them don't have that IT budget, or they don't set that money aside. It's kind of willy-nilly. When something breaks, I'll worry about it. But our job is to make their lives easier. And so when we're doing that, we need to think about them from that standpoint. John.
I'll add something else too. And a lot of the times we're talking about planning and all of that for the next year. I see a lot of guys getting started that start out doing this, and even some salty dogs that spend way too much time, in my opinion, planning. They create a 90-page, I don't know, business plan or something like that. Keep in mind, your planning is an educated guess. You never know where the market's going to go, what your customers are going to do. I'm not saying planning is useless. I mean, you got to have a direction. You got to choose some tools. Who's going to fight the fight with you? Where you're going. You have to have some sort of plan. But keep in mind that your plan should be short, to the point. Maybe go out 6 weeks and be ready to change that plan at a moment's notice. And then in 6 weeks, revisit your plan, your one-page plan, regroup, and reattack. I mean, you do not need to put together 30 or 40 pages in some sort of some business plan to have an adequate plan that's going to guide your business.
No, for sure. And I mean, keep in mind too, is that chances are right now, we're still in December, right? So whatever plan you're putting together now is going to be very reactionary on what's happened since the last time you've made your plan. I would like to think that everybody here has done this once a quarter, but I'm pretty sure that there's a bunch of you right now kind of scratching their head because they haven't done it in 4 years. So we just need to keep on top of it, right? And the new year is more of a reminder to say, hey, look, don't forget you should really be doing this. Hey, look, don't forget, you got to deal with your vendors. You got to deal with your clients. You have to review. If we're not reactionary in this business, then we either stagnate or we die. It's very, very, very difficult to grow in this type of a business if you're not proactive about it.
Well, I think the other thing too is that when you have a plan, it should be a constant moving target. Exactly what these guys are saying. This is not something, and I even think it should be even more than quarterly. You need to have this plan where you're sitting down and you're just, like John says, short and simple. But hey, okay, I looked at it. I worked on this for the month. Now I'm going to come to the end of the month. I'm going to take some time to figure out, was this worthwhile? Do I need to do it for another month? What are some of the changes that I see coming down the road that I might need to make now? And so I think those are things that need to be thought about. And we don't always think about them because, unfortunately, and I keep hearing the same thing over and over again, and I'm not in disagreement with people, except that if you're doing, the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And the one thing I hear in this industry, for whatever reason, is, man, this is hard and you got to go out there and you got to get it. And it's a constant uphill battle. If that's the case, if that's really how you feel, I would suggest you figure out how to not have yourself in that position so that you're not, again, you're only as good as your health and your mind is going to make you out there. So you need to take care of yourself, is what I'm saying. In this mindset of I need to run around 24/7 in order to take care of my customers, that's not always the best move. Number one, it's not good for you. Number two, it's not good for a lot of your customers. You might be able to make one or two of them happy, and the rest are going to be like, what's going on? Why are you so scatterbrained? And you're like, it's because it's hard. And so again, it's just taking that time and talking about coming in the new year. We talk about things like, here's one that a lot of people don't like to talk about: health. Okay. There are simple things you can do, and every person is going to have to figure out what's going to work for them. I do things all the time where when I go in and out of my office, I knock out 20 push-ups just for the heck of it. Now, a lot of people go, I'd look like a complete idiot. Well, okay, you can look like a complete idiot or you can die early. It doesn't matter to me, but the point is you need to take care of yourself so that you can long-term be able to take care of your customers. Not you're here today, one day, and gone tomorrow because you haven't taken the time to take care of yourself. So make sure that, I think that needs to be a priority too. Not exactly like that, but I'm just saying that people need to, Chris is being funny. No, I do care if people die. That's not what I was.
I was listening to this and I'm thinking, did Jeff just tell our entire audience he doesn't care if they die?
What I'm saying is I don't care
Hold
whether
on.
you take care of
Let's make
yourself
sure we're
or not.
recording the backtrack. Hang on. Go ahead.
I would prefer you take the time to take care of yourself. And again, if you're running around like a chicken with your head cut off, figure out what you need to do differently so that is not the case.
Amen.
Oh man. What are some of the other things that people need to think about during this time of year? We've talked about tax prep. We've talked about going out there, making purchases and in different things. Is there anything else that people, this is a good time of year to reassess?
Well, my suggestion would be, coming off a year where I made a ton of changes, I'm setting a couple of business goals where I'm trying to make as few changes in the coming year and going back to where I used to be, using the tools I have, mastering the tools I'm using, that sort of thing, and not changing. I did some experimenting with some different RMM platforms, some different AV platforms, hell, even my phone platform, all that kind of stuff. So this year, just like in prior years to 2017, I'm sticking with what I have, and I'm going to try to get back to mastering what I'm using and more of a focus.
That's good. I think a lot of times we look at the things that we're using, and here's the other thing too that a lot of people will chase. They'll chase that almighty penny. Wait a minute. If I go with this service over here, I can save me a penny. Now, John, that's not what you did in your business. You were looking for tools to make your job easier and to take care of your customers better. You wanted that win-win situation. That's what you were looking for, correct?
No, I would highly suggest that I have a large expense, both in time and money, with what I did in 2017 in the experimenting that I did. I think the biggest mistake that a lot of guys make, and it doesn't matter what business you're in, they mistake change and going through that process for improvement. They say, well, I'll change platforms and hey, I'm improving. Well, are you really? Or are you just going through the motions of making a change? It's like in some organizations, they'll regroup employees or regroup, different business platforms or stuff like that. When nothing is really, you're not making a change at all. You're not making improvement. You're just shuffling the deck. It's still the same deck. So, this year, I went through all that change, and frankly, I'm tired of it. So now I think I have found, and believe it or not, I've actually rotated back to some of the partners I was using previously and feel pretty good about that now. So got a couple new ones, but overall, I feel really good because the money I spent, and specifically the time I spent, I think has paid some dividends, and now I'm ready to move forward. Very good.
PC SAR in the chat room has said, send an end of year thank you card to your customers. I was going to mention that earlier. That's a very, very good idea. You would be surprised. And if you just sent a nice thank you card out to your customers for being a customer, and they could have been a customer a year ago, year and a half ago, it doesn't really matter. You can take your existing list. It's not that expensive. And again, you write it off on your taxes. Good time of year to do it. Go ahead and send those thank you cards out. You would be surprised of how much business you get back from that, because you become front of mind, and all of a sudden when a person sees that card, they go, oh yeah, I meant to give that person a call because I've been having problems with my laptop. The other thing too is, I was telling John earlier, I said I always forget this, but through Repair Shopper we have automated notices that go out, and it's usually 2 weeks, 3 months, 6 months, and a year, I think it is. And so I always forget about the year reminders. And it's always surprising when those year reminders go out, probably 50% of the time, they go, hey, I need you to work on something. And would have never thought about that before. So sending that, I would suggest a physical card that you get in the mail. Make it colorful, not too flashy, and make it personalized. I would even say, to me, personalizing it with a picture, which is what I've done. And it's not because I'm arrogant or anything like that. It's just, it puts a face with the business, and it makes it where it's not just somebody they don't know. Hey, I've actually talked to this person before. I've actually shook their hand, and this is a person I know, and they're sending me a personalized card. So that's kind of cool. I know from realtors and stuff like that, I've gotten family photos from realtors we've worked with in the past. They'll send me a Christmas card. Hey, Merry Christmas, and hey, by the way, here's my family. And so that's kind of cool. And it personalizes it a little bit, not just some company out there.
Yeah, make sure it's not a form letter thanking them. Maybe I always suggest do that handwritten note on whatever you're producing. That really pays dividends. And Zach has a good point in here. How do you know if you're improving if you're not measuring? And I don't know, maybe I didn't make that clear. That was not my intent at all to make, your partners, your CPA and all that should be able to provide you instant reporting in the books that you're keeping. Because I would suggest your processes are generating the information that goes into the platforms you're using that should be able to generate the reporting you need to manage your business by eye, meaning those metrics that you're looking for. Sales up, sales down, expenses, returns per customer, expenses per vendor, that kind of stuff. And depending on how far you take it, if you actually have a ticketing system, you can actually track the time you spend per client, the time, each tech is spending per client. So there is a lot of information that you can gather. But yes, I would suggest all those metrics are extremely important, but don't get buried in them and don't spend all your time trying to generate them. Make sure the platforms and processes that you're doing generate those for you, so you don't have to spend hours generating them, yourself.
That's a good point, John. And I just think about it. Those are some of the simple metrics that I measure in my business is in my Excel spreadsheet. And I put down the customer, if it's a new customer, I put down I can measure at the end of the year and go, how many new customers have I gained? Okay. How many customers have I worked with in the past? And how much time have I spent on each fix? Am I spending too much time on these fixes where it's not really worth the money? And maybe I need to make an adjustment in my services at that point where I'm doing other things or charging more for what is taking me longer. Back in the day, it was insane what I used to charge for a virus removal, which was like a 13-hour process. And I'm not kidding you. That's basically I didn't sit there at the keyboard for 13 hours. That's not it. But the programs and stuff I ran back in the day, they would just chunk along. But the number one thing, when the customer got the computer back, they were like going, this thing's never ran so fast. It's never ran this fast when I brought it home from the store. They were just amazed. Well, it's not quite that way anymore with the higher, percentage hardware and whatnot. But back then, that's what we were doing. Well, I wasn't charging a premium on virus removals. It was probably one of my lower priced products versus let's say a DC jack repair or a screen repair or whatever. And so, but I was spending most of my time making sure that those things were right. So when you're looking at that stuff, you need to assess whether or not it's worth the time and effort for what you're getting paid. If not, then make an adjustment. It's a great time to make those adjustments.
And Zach continues to make some good points in the chat, but also make sure generating those metrics doesn't take a quarter out of every hour in time that you're providing. So you have to find some way, just like we would like to automate our repair tasks, make sure you can automate your metrics as much as possible as well.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely. All right. Looks like we lost Chris.
We'll be there soon with net neutrality.
Oh, let's not get started now.
All right.
Hopefully it doesn't pass. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Is there any other things out there that you can think of, John, that we need to touch on as far as things we need to think about coming towards the end of the year, starting into the new year?
Well, probably the last thing, and it's maybe not business related, but you touched on it a little bit. It's the end of the year. Go take your shirt off, stand in front of the mirror. How you looking? You're going to go swimming this summer and not feel bad about it? I mean, you got to take care of yourself. Lord knows I got to get back in the gym. So, we spend a lot of time doing this. Some of us love it. Some of it's a job, but make sure you're taking care of yourself, just like you said.
And I think one of the things that I'm doing is I also decided, since I was doing push-ups coming in and out of my office, I was looking for a pull-up bar. I figured, I do the old Marine thing and, maybe do some pull-ups or whatever.
I remember back in the day, I could do a pull-up. That was great.
But I was looking for one that I could mount in between the door jamb that I could still, I'm not a very tall guy, as most people know, where I could actually walk through my door. I could still shut my door and not have it interfere with anything. It's not one of those ones that kind of wraps around and, on one side of the wall and holds you up. So I'm definitely looking for something like that.
So you don't want one of the ones that you kind of put in as removable?
Correct.
You don't want that?
No.
Okay.
And the ones I'm talking about are still removable, except that you take the points that it locks into, and those are actually mounted with screws into the door jamb. So you can remove the bar if you need to, like, I don't know if you're having a party or something, but really it's most of the time me walking by my office door is pretty much who sees it.
So you do 20 push-ups every time in and every time out?
Not every time. I said it's a goal. I try. When I think about it, when I'm not carrying my cup of coffee or cup of water.
I have to do 21 then. That's all I was thinking about.
Okay.
I was trying to get the number down.
You know what? But it is, I'll tell you what, it's funny, speaking about health. So a lot of times, man, I sit here on Sundays and I'm going through a bunch of information, trying to pull some stuff together, get some last minute things done, usually working on something or other with a podcast or my business or whatever. So there are times when people have probably seen it where I'm a little bit tired. Well, what I try to do is I run the stairs like 20 times, up and down 20 times, get the juices flowing, get the breath going.
Hey, listen, something's better than nothing.
Absolutely. Every little bit counts. And I tell people a lot of times that when you think about, and John, this summer, because you got my wife and I both Fitbits and we were kind of, challenging each other. This summer, we did more walking in the neighborhood, and I can't tell you how good I felt just from walking. And it wasn't fast walking. It was just walking. But we were walking on average about, I think my wife's goal is 12 miles a day. So I'm at, right around 10, 12, depends on the day. Sometimes we were doing some insane amounts. And it was just, we have a route in our neighborhood, and we would just go on a walk in the evening.
Not to mention it's quality time with your significant other. Exactly.
And I came back and I was more productive once I got back up to the office. I'm like, oh, I can get this done, that done. And it was really, it's a night and day difference. It's amazing how well you feel. And Chris has decided to come back. I guess net neutrality got to them before it got to us, huh?
I guess so. Although I wouldn't say chose.
So we were talking about health and just about doing some things that would take care of yourself, make you feel better as you're doing your day-to-day stuff. What do you do for exercise, Chris?
One-arm push-ups.
That I want to see.
I got a baby.
Dude, in Canada, he chops wood.
That's right. We're all lumberjacks up here. No, dude, I got a baby. Right, I get plenty of exercise between that and the other two kids. It's winter now, so we're not going to be doing the park walks anymore, but we have a treadmill. So yeah, no, we're a lot of walking, jogging.
I'm tempted, but I really don't like the cold. I know I live in Michigan. I don't like the cold, but I'm still tempted to sometimes in the evenings maybe go out and go ahead and just take maybe a little bit quicker walk. Because when you're walking, you're warm. It's not really bad. It's just getting out there and getting that initial blast of cold air.
The problem is that we live off of a lake.
Oh.
So, when I talk about like it getting cold and there being a lot of snow, I mean like 5-6 foot piles of snow on the side of the road.
Well, you are in Canada,
That's extreme for here too, though.
All right, Chris, is there any other things that you can think of that we need to deal with talking about end of year, beginning of the next year?
Can we talk about taxes?
We cover everything?
What about insurance? Insurance review?
Who needs insurance? So what things would you look at as far as your insurance?
Content, business continuity. If you drive your customers' computers or equipment back and forth in your own vehicle, do you have the proper business insurance for that? Has anything changed in the insurance laws since you first signed on to your insurance? Like, I can tell you right now, if I didn't have the insurance on my car that I have, if I had a customer's laptop in the car and I got into an accident, that could invalidate the entire claim just because I'm performing business with my vehicle. So there's that to consider. Has your insurance company made a change on how they handle vehicles that have a wrap? If you advertise on your vehicle, does that change any of the rules now? So, this might be a good time of year to call up your insurance agent and find out when your renewal is, set up an appointment maybe a month before that renewal. And then that way it's on your books and on your calendar so that you're going to make that appointment. You're going to go and make sure you have proper car insurance. Business continuity is a big one as well. If you get sick or if something happens to you, you want to make sure that your insurance amount is reflective on what your income is. If you doubled the amount of business that you did this year and you don't make a change to your business continuity insurance, then you're going to be pretty screwed when all those bills come in for all the extras that you're paying out on.
Now, what is business continuity as far as insurance?
It basically, without throwing all the legal terms into it, it insures the directors of a company. So, me as the owner of the company, so that if anything happens to me, the insurance company provides X number of dollars, depending on what your insurance is, in order to pay for someone to run the company, or at least to pay the bills and make sure that the phone lines stay on, or whatever it is that you need to do it with.
So kind of like Aflac.
I have no idea what that is.
Come on, you've never seen the commercial? Oh, I'm sorry, you're in Canada. Never
mind. I also don't have TV, so let's be real here.
John, you know all about Aflac, don't you?
Aflac.
Look it up on YouTube. All right, so I think the other thing too is talking about a lot of times we get into these service agreements where we're paying for some sort of recurring software, hardware, whatever, and some sort of service maybe. And a lot of times, maybe we haven't used that service in the last year or the last 6 months. So I think somebody touched on it earlier, but those are things you need to look at to go, hey, I'm not really using this anymore. Maybe I need to move this money into something else since I'm just throwing it away and it's not being used. Because those things get away from us when we're out there and just signing up for all these different services. The next thing you turn around, you go like, where'd all my money go? Well, it's automatically being taken out of your account. And so you've got to be able to take care of that and look at all those things too. All right. Well, I think, is there anything else, gentlemen, that we could cover before we move on?
I'll put a bunch of links in the show notes and all that on sites from like QuickBooks and entrepreneur.com and all that kind of stuff that cover a lot of things we do and have some other suggestions.
All right. And I noticed in the chat room, somebody was talking about, let's see, that Zach was talking about adding cybersecurity insurance riders as well. That sounds like a bunch of bull malarkey that somebody made up, to be honest with you.
On paper, it's a great idea, but
does it stop anything? That's the point. Does it?
Well, maintaining to get a payment. I mean, there's a lot of stories out there right now, and somebody like David Sims over at Tip Up for MSPs and all that, he talks about this in some of the podcasts. I don't think he has a favorite he likes either, but I mean, it's so easy for them not to pay. I mean, it's just, and you have to deal with, if you're going to do it, which I'm not saying it's bad in all cases, you better deal with an agent that knows exactly what they're doing and everything about it, because it's not just like buying auto insurance. There's a lot going on there, so you have to be very careful when you're buying that.
That's a good point, John. And I know we've talked about this in the past. One of the things that you will find out in the industries, whether it be real estate, whether it be insurance, is once you have a license to sell this stuff, you're not always required to have continuing education. And so there's a lot of generalities out there that you talk to people and they really don't know what's going on inside their own industry. So you need to be able to find that stuff out. And this new stuff comes up all the time where it's like, is this like a real thing? Can this really help you? Or is it just more, hey, here's another avenue for us to get money out of you, and that's why we're going to do this?
Ooh, let's go with the first one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's a good example of this is when all the healthcare changes happen here in the States, you know, with Obamacare and everything. You know, I have a long-term insurance provider that I've partnered with who does a great job. But when that changed, you know, all the rules and the complexity went way up. So my insurance provider actually contacted me and said, "Hey, John, you know, we're not doing health insurance anymore. It's just there's just too much for us to keep up with, and we don't write enough." So then he actually referred me to somebody that purely does health insurance, because it's so complex now that, you know, you need somebody in the health insurance world that can keep up with all of that.
Right. I think so. I think it's I mean, the continued education, even in what we do, we need to constantly be continuing our education. So I guess that's one of the other things to look at too for ourselves is instead of just doing the same thing year after year after year, there is time throughout your year. And especially right now, as you're thinking about it, maybe putting a plan together of something you can do a few months from now, 6 months from now, 9 months from now. What are some of the things that you can learn and become better at instead of just going with the status quo and going, I know everything, you know? So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there. It's one of those things where I always say you can have the best insurance in the world and you can absolutely be sued for anything. And guess what? Even with insurance, you'll still pay the cost of going to court. You're not getting around that because not in the US anyways.
But that's why you just become like the three of us and just know everything. Isn't that?
There you go.
Isn't that the point?
That is Mr. Chris Carruthers. Yes.
Yeah, that's Chris at Carruthers-computers.com.
Wow, you just throw me right under the bus. Okay. I was just some anonymous voice on this show. I don't know why you had to bring my name into it.
All right. Okay. I think we've covered a lot here. A lot of stuff to think about. And hopefully some of this information has at least made you think about what to think about coming up here within the next few weeks and even into the beginning of the year. Speaking of, I think we only have one more show left this year. So next week's show, and I will get this out of the way right now, next week's show will be the last show of the year. And I'm not sure exactly what we're going to do. I might have an idea, but we'll see what happens next week.
Does it involve dancing?
Oh no.
Okay.
I hope not. Unless you're dancing. If you're dancing, it might involve dancing.
I think I've seen you dance,
if John Dubinsky is going to be dancing on this show, I think it's going to have to be a pay-per-view episode.
Whoa. I already did the Facebook thing. That's enough.
Oh, all right.
Okay, if Patreon goes above $200 an episode, I will dance on this show.
There you go.
Awesome.
Break dance, that is.
There you go. All right, let's go ahead and take another quick break, and then we can maybe talk about a couple more things. All right. Our show today is brought to you by Kabuto, a lightweight RMM built for residential MSPs that let you easily monitor and manage your devices. Improve customer loyalty and get more leads. Use Kabuto to sell residential managed services such as device monitoring, patch management, managed antivirus, and more. Kabuto detects issues for your clients and pops up a custom branded prompt so your customers can easily get in touch with you. You can easily manage your clients using the Kabuto online dashboard and add upgrades like managed antivirus and monitoring to clients' accounts. New to Kabuto is the ability to remotely access and control client devices with their latest module called Kabuto Live. This new module allows you to seamlessly transition from seeing a client's request to help in launching a remote session and providing solutions. Kabuto also integrates with various CRMs and PSAs to streamline your workflow. That's always a good thing. One of the things with Kabuto is you can sign up for the service, and it's a low cost to be able to basically put it on your customer's endpoint. So if you're doing residential and a customer brings in a laptop for a virus removal, you can throw Kabuto on there, and you don't have to charge them anything. You're already paying a fee. Look at it as a marketing fee. And that customer, if something goes wrong with their computer, a little pop-up comes up and says, hey, I see there's a problem here. Would you like to call your provider, which would be you? And so that, again, keeps you front of mind and keeps you, so the customer keeps coming back to you. It kind of has that sticky to it, or sticky, yeah. Stick-to-itiveness. There you go. Anyways, you can sign up today for a free 30-day trial at repairtechsolutions.com/Kabuto, and it's KABUTO. All right, let's answer some emails. Wait a minute, we don't have any emails. I don't know what's happening at the end of the year, but you people are slacking. So
Everybody's
I'm just
doing
going to
the
put
New
it
Year
out there.
planning, so they don't have time to email.
Exactly. Well, you know what? Email your questions anyway, or you can send a voicemail, or the phone lines are open. Call number is 1-888-697-0162. All right, so let's go ahead and let me go into something else here real quick. Since we're talking about John is on the Facebook. So John put out something a couple weeks ago, I guess it was, and said if our Patreon got up to over $40 an episode, was it $40, John? Yeah, because we were at like 35. So people have come out of the woodwork because apparently they really like John. Still trying to figure out why, but anyways, they really like him and they really wanted him to be a part of this group. And I'm so glad that people stepped up. And you guys are keeping it going. This is awesome. So I want to thank our newest Patreon supporters. We have and it looks like Divyrr, Divyrr, one of those wonderful names to probably hide the real you. And also John Reed upped his pledge, which was awesome. New patron, Todd Harris. And we have another new patron, and that is Tony Roberts. And the last new one for the week is Brandon Mew. And I appreciate what each and every person has stepped up and done. You guys are making it worthwhile to put this stuff together and come out and share each and every week. So I definitely appreciate that. We've got some good things looking forward to in the future. I want to thank all of our Patreon supporters for your continued support and for being part of Patreon and giving to this show. We have a secret Facebook group. So let me explain a couple things because, again, I'm kind of new to this whole group dynamic and getting people signed up. Basically, and if it's not working correctly, people need to let me know because there's already been a couple issues where people haven't been able to get in. Most people have. But I want to make sure that everybody has that opportunity. So once you sign up for Patreon and you give to this show, you can send me an email, podnutz@podnutz.com, and you can basically give me your email address that you use for Patreon, or I'm sorry, for Facebook. Okay, that's the one I need, is the one you use for Facebook. And then I will manually add you to the group. Now, when I do that, you still have to go in and accept the ad. Now, the only time this changes is if you and I are already friends on Facebook, I can go ahead and I can just drag you into the group and add you. So that's basically how that works. So if you have not been added to the group, and I try to do this on a timely basis, I really do, and it's not working, there's still a couple people out there that are pending. I know some people said they didn't have Facebook accounts and whatnot, and that's fine. And some people were going to set up a Facebook account just for their business, which is cool. When you go ahead and do that, get that done, send me the email address that you're using for that Facebook account, and I will add you into the Facebook group. Now, I have not been, because I'm doing a lot of things in the background with the podcast and in hosting and different things like that. But my hope is I want to have this Facebook group, this secret Facebook group, as a group where not only everybody's sharing among themselves, and we've already got some people asking for recommendations, hopefully getting good recommendations, figuring some things out that will help them in their business. I know John, even the Maven, he even asked for a recommendation because there's always room for improvement. There's always room to learn new things. And John knows that. I know that. But I want to get in there. And what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to do some more live videos. And it'll either be maybe answering a question that's come up in the group that I can answer in a short video versus actually typing it out, which I really don't like to do, or maybe teaching something like, let's say, a virus removal. Hey, how do maybe I'll get on with John, and we can go over one of the products he uses for virus removals. John, What's your process for going through a virus remover? I can show mine or whatever. And so I want this group to have that beneficial, be able behind the scenes look at what people are doing. Because a lot of times we talk about it and there's only so much we can say on the show where we're basically a bunch of talking heads. But to be able to sit back and just talk freely and be able to give, hey, here's my process. And hopefully not only will other people learn from that, but, a lot of us that have been doing it for a while, man, we could probably learn some things from some of the new folks out there, to be honest with you. And I know a lot of people don't think that, but the reality is a lot of us get stuck in the ways that we've done stuff and we don't want to change. But when somebody points something out that makes sense, we go, oh, wait a minute, that could save me X amount of time on this process. So that is well worth it. And so again, it's a win-win situation for everybody. And it's what I'm trying to pull together in this group, and also make a safe environment where you can ask the simple questions and you're not made to feel like a doofus, which I don't want anybody to feel that way, because everybody has to start somewhere. Unless snarky Chris. I mean, yeah.
That's right.
So anyways, now Chris is Chris is given to the show, obviously, and John's he's been given to the show in the beginning. These guys are both part of the secret Facebook group, and I see some of their posts. And the other thing is, here's the thing: when it comes to Facebook groups, I'm a part of a lot of them. I only have the notifications turned on for one. So the other ones I peruse through every once in a while when I have some time, but I don't need to be dinged every other second when there's like this big long thread going on. But for the secret Facebook group, I want to be in the know on what's going on. So that will always be on my phone, my computer, etc., so that I can keep up with people and make it a worthwhile thing for you guys supporting the show. So definitely appreciate that. All right, guys, I don't know what else we're going to talk about because we don't have any emails. We don't have any voicemails. And right now, we don't have any calls.
What?
Yeah.
Who's going to call in?
It's like three for three.
Somebody has to have a question.
Well, here's what I suggest we do then. Let's do a quick AMA for the people who are in the chat.
Ooh.
Sounds good.
All right. Lay it on us, chat room.
Ask John anything. I didn't say anything about AMA for me.
Oh, you.
Ask me anything.
I am enjoying the Facebook group. I'm not enjoying Facebook. I have about as much as I possibly can, but I am enjoying the group.
We got old man Dubinsky here. Doesn't want to have anything to do with the Facebook.
Well,
only one reason I'm on, and that's for the group.
Here's the thing, and I'm with you, John. I don't share a whole lot. A lot of the stuff that is shared through Facebook is either me keeping up with my kids, grandkids, etc.
Oh, I've stalked everybody, but I'm not friending anybody.
Exactly. And so I do that all the time. But as far as sharing, I don't share a whole lot on there. But the Facebook group, one of the reasons we picked that platform was because that's pretty much where everybody's at.
Yeah,
for the same reasons I am.
I'm aware of that. Hey, we got our first question.
Hey, what is it? So we got trying to find the right tool combo to start my business with. PSA, RMM, CRM, etc. And that's from SD Hoot. So the right tool combo.
Well, again, Chris, can I use your line or do I have to pay to use it? It depends.
You can go to my Patreon. No.
I don't know why we talk about adult underwear all the time on the show. I don't. Is that a Canadian thing or what?
It's not a Canadian thing, but when you're an IT professional and you sit in a chair for 18 hours a day, then sometimes it's just what you need.
Well, to answer, I'll answer that question, or I'll go first.
Go ahead, John.
I answer it with the "it depends" question. Now that I've been through about 6 or 7 of them in the past year, there's a lot out there to look at, and it depends. Like I said, on what you need to run your business: PSA, RMM, CRM, and all that. If you're just starting out, you might look at some of the lower cost ones, like Atera, which is a flat fee per client, but you have to look at what they're providing to you. They do have a PSA Lite. Chris, I think you've used Atera in the past, and I've tried them as well. They have a nice integration with Ninite, which I still pay for, even though my RMM platform claims to do patching. I love Ninite Pro. and you'd have to pry it from my dead hands or convince me otherwise not to use it. I moved over from Autotask, which I really liked, their RMM platform. I was considering their PSA platform, but I found it far too much for me as a solo tech. I mean, there would have been a huge investment in money and time, which I'm willing to make, but I don't need those dividends just for little old me. You can always look at somebody like Ninja, which integrates with a lot of other platforms. Like you can integrate Ninja into Repair Shopper. If you're interested in Repair Shopper, which I used for a little bit, which I did like, talk to Paco. He's the Repair Shopper master, and I think Chris, you use them as well, don't you?
I used to, yeah.
Used to, okay. But Paco can make Repair Shopper almost wash his car for him, so that would be a great place to start, and that is also a low cost price to start. Plus, you can go month to month, which I would suggest you do with any vendor, especially at the beginning, because then you don't have to commit and you can switch as needed, as well as if you get into trouble, you could knock it off as one of your expenses.
I didn't know
So
John
I'm not
had
sure
commitment.
that totally answers his question, but that's the way to go. And then we also have to circle back to Zach, because he has a question that was answered prior to that one.
Let me ask you one other thing besides that, John. As far as, is there any system when you're talking about RMM, PSA, and all these things, and I understand you have a lot of endpoints, is there any system that you go, man, I better pick right and stick to it and know it because it's going to be hard to switch? Or would you say that you could switch any of these things and just try them out as you're going?
No. I mean, okay.
I mean, are you just starting out? I mean, or I would never encourage anybody to trial things like I did with the amount of endpoints I have, because that's a lot of pain.
Yeah, like as somebody that's migrated 400 endpoints between systems twice, I'm gonna tell you you don't want to do that as much as you can possibly avoid it. Your best bet, especially if you're starting off and you're looking at a new tool, install it on your own network and have one client that you're really, really good with after you've started testing it for a week on your own network. Hey, listen, if I give you a bit of a discount, you mind if I toss this onto your 10 computer network and make sure, once you know it's not really going to break anything, you just need to see how it works in a different environment. If those two things both work and you're happy with it, that's when you want to start rolling out. You don't want to just jump on it. Because if you have to transfer all of those things over, what's going to happen if, say, somebody at one of the offices is on vacation for a week and you can't convince anybody to turn that computer on so that you can remote in to switch them over? Now you've got a missing endpoint. You got to wait until they come back from vacation. So you're scheduling yourself to do that. If you forget to do that, you now have a completely unprotected endpoint out there, right? So it's going to be a giant pain for you if you have to keep making those changes.
And the other thing,
go ahead.
I was going to say, the other thing too is I would also tend to, because everybody's done this at one point or another, start off simple. My CRM was basically a paper-based CRM where I could, yes, it's old school. You have a file folder with all your customers in it. I could go back and look at any of that stuff. It was until I switched over to Repair Shopper, which now keeps my whole client database all at my fingertips. And I can basically, with a couple mouse clicks, get to a customer and find out when they call me 6, 8 a year later and say, hey, do you remember when? And I'm like, no, I don't remember when, but I can look it up. And that makes my life a lot easier. So I've been happy with that system since I started with it. But again, I just started with raw paperwork. Here, sign this. I'm going to throw this in a folder. Now I can leaf back through it if that's where you need to be. But Repair Shopper, they have a free tier. So, I mean, they make it so easy.
And they're adding on, Zach mentioned Synchro MSP, which is Repair Shopper with RMM. So that's something to look at. I'll put a link in the show notes, which is a link to a Google Doc that talks about a ton of RMM comparisons, meaning from AEM, which is Autotask, Atera, ConnectWise, Komodo, Continuum, Kabuto, Kaesa, Managed Workplace, Navrisk, Ninja, blah, blah, blah. Need I go on? Keep in mind, though, what I would do, anytime you're going to look at any platform is make sure that you have to, define your parameters. Does it need to run on Mac? Does it need to have Windows support too? Are you a Linux guy? Does it need Linux? Does it integrate with the endpoint protection you want to do? Does it support the type of scripting you want to do, whether that's PowerShell or Batch? so on and so forth. So you got to come up with the top 10 or 15 requirements that you absolutely have to have. And then if you don't know those, under this Google Doc that I just put in the chat, you will find a large listing of, all sorts of things that you may not even have considered as well.
All right, so going back up to Zach's question, those doing MSP per user, what's your average all-in seat price?
Average?
Average.
Well, I don't know. What's between 25 and 59? Because those are the two costs.
35?
Sure.
37 and a half? I don't know.
You know what? Let's bring out some underwear. It depends. It depends.
So,
it does depend because there's most people have different tiers, right?
Correct.
So you got to worry about what services
I think
are you
he's talking
providing.
all in. So I'm assuming it means it covers everything when he says all in.
If it's all in, $59.99. There's no average. That's the price.
So what does that work out to per year, Chris?
Per year? Hey, calculator.
That would be 60 times 12 minus 12.
What? $719.88.
Okay. All right. Now, what does that cover exactly? What is your $59 cover?
Antivirus, RMM monitoring, patch management, and unlimited remote support.
Okay. All right.
Well, and in-shop support if they're willing to drop it off.
Oh, and in-shop support. Okay.
Yeah, but not on-site. On-site is $129 an hour still.
Okay. Because I charge $450 a year for basically the same thing, but except that anything outside of you bring it to me or I got to come there, I got to touch it besides remote. Yeah, that's a charge.
When we looked at this on that other podcast we talked about, we did pull up, somebody did some research on this, and it looked like it was $52 a desktop was the average.
Which I was surprised it was that low.
No, that's desktop support and maintenance. I mean, they don't really break down to exactly what that includes.
Right.
Is that just patching or is that remote support? And then and servers are about 156. And I put the link back in the chat. But if you go back, I don't remember which show number that was, but if you go back a couple of shows, we beat that one to death pretty good.
Yep.
Not that wasn't a good question, Zed. Sorry.
No, it's a great question. It does give you the opportunity though to watch that show if you go back, and we'll actually go pretty deep into it. But yeah.
So
do we know what episode that was?
That would have been what, 258? I think.
I'll find out.
258. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
There you go.
All right, and John, you already said which. I don't know if this question came out. Which RMM are you using now? And this is from our nerd James. He says, I'm using SolarWinds MSP, but it's a bit clunky.
I'm back to Ninja. I like the SolarWinds product. I took a look at that. I might, if I had my talents pretty deep into SolarWinds, I might hang on to it for another quarter because they're supposed to be doing some things to the console and interface and all that to fix a lot of the clunkiness.
Sorry, can we clarify here, because SolarWinds, for those who know the history of it, they bought out the old what used to be GFI back in the day. So are we talking about the old GFI product, or are we talking about the SolarWinds self-hosted product, which is two completely separate things?
I would 99% guarantee we're talking about SolarWinds MSP, which is the SaaS product, which used to be Hound Dog, which used to be GFA Max, which used to be Logic Now, which is now SolarWinds MSP.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. I love the history of that whole thing, but yeah.
Yeah, everybody bought out everybody. And I think here's the thing. I've said this before. When it comes to RMMs or any other piece of software or hardware for that matter, they're not all going to work 100%. Here's the thing. If I get 70% out of a product, pretty happy, because that's a pretty good win. A lot of people have this expectation just because you're paying money that it's going to work in absolutely every situation with every different configuration out there, with every known and unknown problems that exist to man. That's just not a reality. Yet, for some reason, we're not 100% on everything we do. And if you are, I have a job for you. But the reality is we're all, fallible to a certain extent. So the products and services we use sometimes are not going to work exactly the way we want every time. I think and John said this before, everything we use, there's a lot of pros and cons. Some things do some things better than others. That's just the way it is.
Well, one of the primary reasons I came back to Ninja was one, a lot of guys in the Podnutz clan are using Ninja, which I like because I can share scripts and all that kind of stuff with you guys, which I've done already. And two, it's kind of nice to maybe be a bigger fish in a smaller pond. I know a lot of the guys over at Ninja, and they take really good care of me, and I appreciate the support they give me. I also like the community over there. I post on that board quite often. But I also would suggest on my short list of things that I was considering, SolarWinds was on there, and so was Continuum. I did like both of those when I looked at those for a RMM to fit my size business. To go back what James was asking, maybe who we're using, and he thought that SolarWinds was kind of clunky. James, if you go back and listen to a couple of the Podnutz Pro episodes, I don't know if you do that or not, but Marvin had SolarWinds on, and they were talking. I guess one of the biggest complaints about the SolarWinds meetup this year, they have a nice conference every year, actually all over, was that all they did was talk about the improvements they're going to make, not really about, maybe some meat of the topic. But to me, from what I'm hearing from SolarWinds, that was one of the main things that needed improvement was the interface and all that, and that's coming. But they have it, SolarWinds is great. They've got the RMM, they've got backup, they've got MSP Manager, which they just, I think, rolled out, which is a PSA. They got Mail Assure, Risk Intelligence, which is a product I wish that I could plug into Ninja. And MSP is Anywhere is the remote product. So I think they've got a good thing going. And I think if you're there, I don't think you're missing out.
No,
right.
I mean, I'd stay where you are for now, at least to see what the changes are going to be. And if you're not happy, you got to remember how much effort it's going to take to move. I'll endorse Ninja every day of the week. But
yep,
exactly. But if I were using SolarWinds right now and everything was working properly, I'd need to have a reason to switch.
I'm kind of excited about Ninja's, what they're rolling out, what their product roadmap looks like. I like a couple of things that they've got coming now and in the future with their backup product, the remote app, or the mobile app they're supposed to have come in, and a couple other things. So that has me excited as well.
Now, if I can, and the fact that they brought out the remote command line, there's two big things that I would love to, if I can be critical for. Am I allowed to be critical of them? I don't know. They sponsored the show. Maybe I shouldn't.
I bet they would appreciate it. So I don't think there's any problem being critical.
You think so?
Hey, we are honest on this show, and again, yes, we endorse things that we use, and I use them every day. I like what they do, but yes, nobody's perfect.
All right. Well, then, since we're going to talk about imperfections, two things. First off, remote registry editing. It is the one big thing that I miss from the SolarWinds self-hosted, was the ability to edit the registry from the dashboard in a registry tree. That was an amazing feature. It's the only thing I missed from it. And the second thing is the pricing. I mean, the one weird thing about Ninja is that unlike a lot of these hosted RMM platforms, you sign up for a number of clients, of endpoints. And so if for some reason you drop, you have to contact them to tell them that you've dropped so that they adjust the billing. But they'll adjust your billing if you go high. So that's one of the things to watch for is I think that should be changed. I think that the pricing should be automated and dynamic. I know that they can.
And I'll say too, I think that I am for companies, and this is why I like companies like Repair Shopper and so on and so forth. There's companies out there that will use a tiered approach. And what I mean by that is a lot of times, instead of having this big buy-in, now there's people out there to say, hey, the little guys shouldn't be able to buy in and make their lives easier. They need to come up just like everybody else did. And part of that I don't understand, because again, I think you can still sell this product to a residential end user, because I've got it on many machines for residential clients that they pay me every year because it does what it's supposed to do. It makes their lives easier, it makes my life easier, and I make that money. But I think if you have a tiered approach where you can get in on a level and maybe it costs you a little bit more in the beginning as far as per endpoint, that would be okay. And then as you get up, you get up and have more customers, you could have that where now all of a sudden you're getting some of the discounts that maybe some of the bigger MSPs are getting. So again, there's a lot of companies, and I don't think they quite fully understand this. The reality is there's more of us than there are of the big MSPs. That's just the way it is. So in my opinion, you're leaving a lot of money on the table. Now, granted, from our standpoint too, we as smaller business owners need to stop being so cheap and actually pay for things. Put your money where your mouth is. That's the other problem. And I understand why these companies don't want to deal with us because, again, from our standpoint, cheaper customers are usually a bigger problem. So guess what?
Well, just look at the customers that give you a problem.
Exactly.
They're the cheap ones.
Yeah.
Exactly. So don't be that guy or gal.
Now, let's be clear. I wasn't talking about not paying for the service. I was talking about the dynamic pricing structure.
No,
in most places.
That was my 2 cents.
Okay, good.
I guess if I was starting out, I would wish that Ninja and some of the other players would have more of a clear pricing structure.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
just put it out there. Hey, here's what it is. And again, from the standpoint of the small business owner, don't necessarily go out there and go, man, I can save 5 cents per endpoint, so I'm going to switch. Again, that person.
Guaranteed, you're going to spend way too much time switching everybody over for 5 cents an endpoint. I don't care how many endpoints you have and how much money that is.
But people do it because I don't know why. Mental instability, I'm not sure. But anyways.
Now, we do have SD Hoot.
Hoot, I like it. We'll call him Hoot.
Yeah, Hoot.
All right.
If you are using a Ninja, what are you using for your PSA or service desk with it? Now, I have my own built, so
I have in-house as well.
Yeah, so really, I'm gonna tell everybody that whatever PSA you're using, if it accepts incoming email that creates a ticket automatically, then almost every single one of these RMMs will do that. Will send out an email alert. So you pretty much have that in the bag. However, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe Repair Shopper and Help Desk both integrate with, don't they, with Ninja?
Yes. Well, I know that
you don't even need a full integration for a lot of the products, because even when I was looking at Ninja and looking at full PSA platforms, Ninja will send an email so you can customize your PSA to receive that email and create a ticket. So, I mean, there are ways around it.
Geez, that's almost the first thing that I said. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm sorry, you were breaking up. It was your cheap internet. So.
Oh, okay.
Repair Shopper does for sure. I'm not sure about Help Desk. I know that when I go in to create a new customer, it'll say what type of customer am I creating, and I can actually have a drop-down menu that shows me Ninja if I'm adding them on as an endpoint onto my service. So
okay.
All that stuff in there. Yeah, it's
the actual answer is Autotask, ConnectWise, and Repair Shopper, and the benefit of doing that is it also syncs your customers.
Yes.
So the tickets that are created actually go onto the customer, which is a really good point, because if you use the email system, you have to reassign that ticket to the customer. So I guess if you wanted to be able to skip a step. One integration, though, that I really want to point out, and actually this is something that I should have thought to talk about during the beginning when we were talking about the year-end stuff, is Warranty Master. Do either of you guys use Warranty Master?
No.
No. Okay. So Warranty Master, you can only use it if you're using an RMM tool. Basically, what winds up happening is you integrate with your RMM tool, and all of the serial numbers and model numbers and everything feeds from your RMM tool into Warranty Master. Warranty Master then pulls the manufacturers to see what the warranties are, like when the warranty end dates are in all those computers. So if you're taking on a new client, or if you're just really bad at keeping track of this stuff, which you should be keeping track of this stuff anyway, Warranty Master will do it automatically, and will give you alerts when it's time to start replacing computers because they're at the end of their warranty. John, I mean, I'm sure that you have your own tracking system, but how much would that have helped you at the beginning when you first got started and you're taking on these new clients?
Well, anything you can automate like that, especially if you can automate what I would consider that as a possible revenue source.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's huge. Even I'll go back to Repair Shopper and even add on more with any kind of integration. And I think Paco does this, to refer back to him again, is, he bills through Repair Shopper. So when he adds an endpoint in Ninja, it automatically adjusts his invoicing for his endpoint billing through Repair Shopper. So, he's automated that clear across.
That's nice.
So, I mean, yeah, if you could add in Warranty Master and have it come up and say, hey, here's the server warranties and endpoint warranties that are ending. Here's a potential revenue for that. I mean, that's huge too, because that's just one more thing you don't need to go look up.
Yeah.
When that's the other thing with, a lot of people talk about how do you do recurring billing, and Repair Shopper does that because you can, all my clients that are on my residential MSP, they get a bill once a year, and it's 1 month ahead of time. So 1 month before it even expires, so that if it gets to the end of the month, and it never has happened, but if it were to get to the end of the month and they didn't pay for whatever reason, I reached out to them, whatever happened, then I could just shut the service off. No harm, no foul. They've gotten their whole 12 months and we walk away clean.
And that's a great point, Jeff, on considering your vendor partnerships and all that and what contracts you are signing. Keep in mind, if you sign a year contract because you bring on a nice big customer and for some reason they decide to leave in 6 months, it doesn't mean you're going to have to stop billing paying for the commitments you made. So be careful with that moving forward.
Exactly. Yeah. Because a lot of the services we use, fortunately, are month to month. But when it comes to, especially on the smaller ticket stuff, when we're talking about $1,000, thousands of dollars that John might be billing a customer that has 25 endpoints at one place. When we're talking about these smaller customers, a lot of them, I don't want to do month-to-month billing with them because you know what? You just pay it up front. You put it on a credit card, you do whatever you got to do. You pay it up front. It comes due every year. It's not a big deal. We're talking about a few $100s. It's nothing that's going to, not put food on your table or anything like that. So that's the way I do with it, because I don't want to do the recurring billing month after month after month. Not a small ticket stuff.
Yeah.
No more questions?
Is that it? This is good though. Hey, this good interaction from the chat room.
Yeah,
good
thanks, guys.
Appreciate it. All right, let's go ahead, and we're getting to that time anyways. Great questions, great answers from a great crew. Let's go ahead and let's see, Chris.
Yeah.
Give us one parting thought and let people know where they can find out more about you and your beard.
Well, the only way you're going to find out about my beard is to fly up here. So my big parting thought, we are coming into the holiday season, guys. Don't forget about gift cards. It's going to sound really, really weird coming from someone who wants to do a professional IT thing. However, if you do any work for the employees of the different companies that you deal with, or if you're doing residential anyway, gift cards are a huge way to make revenue during the holiday season. Maybe only about 40% of all gift cards are actually redeemed. So sometimes it winds up just being money in the bank that you have to deal with later. And there are plenty of services out there that do it cheap, like Square. So Square does both physical gift cards and e-gift cards. So go check it out. In the meantime, though, my name is Chris Carruthers from Carruthers Computers. You can give me a call, 888-496-2641, or you can keep up with what I'm doing online on my Patreon page, which I think has the link for.
Awesome. Great having you here. And Mr. John Dubinsky, can you give us one parting thought? Let people know where they can find you and your beautiful bald head.
I'm looking forward to seeing everybody on the Facebook.
That's awesome. And that's where you can find John, and he is in the
John, Facebook group, not on Facebook in general, in the Facebook group.
And John's always been, he's wanted to be a part of a group, and we've tried a couple other things in the past that just kind of didn't fan out. So hopefully this will be a place where we can interact, get our questions answered, get good advice, move forward, and learn something new. And then where can they find you, John, besides Facebook? If they want to email you, which
mavengroup.net.
All right. Check them out over there. All right. So if you guys want to come join us live for the Computer Repair Podcast every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern over at podnutz.com/Computer Repair Podcast Live. You can join in on a conversation by calling in live and hanging out in the chat room. We had a lively chat room today. You can also send an email to podnutz@podnutz.com or leave a voicemail at 1-888-697-0162. We have audio available over at podnutz.com or subscribe using your favorite podcatcher. You can be notified when the show is live by subscribing to our YouTube channel, Computer Repair Podcast. I want to thank everyone for listening and subscribing to the show. We'll see you next time on Podnutz, the Computer Repair Podcast.